Ho, ho, holy shit. The holidays are stressful.
Welcome, winos. We are so happy to be back with you today. The holiday season is in full swing, and while that often includes a lot of joy and celebration, it also includes a lot of stress, anxiety, frustration. Well, you get where we're going. It can also be quite lonely and depressing this time of year for many. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about ways you can practice a little self care this time of year and take care of your employees.
We encourage you to practice some self care during this episode. So feel free to press pause, change into some comfy clothes, grab your favorite beverage, maybe some cucumber slices for your eyes, whatever helps you de stress and relax, and then come back and press play. We'll still be here. We do want to warn you that in today's episode, we are going to be talking about some difficult topics, including suicide, domestic violence, self harm, and other topics of that nature. So, if this is not the right episode for you, we want to let you know that up front. And we would love to have you join us on our next episode, which is going to be much more lighthearted and send everybody as our final episode of the season off with a lot of love and laughter. But we do think that this is a really, really important topic. We cover it every year, usually around this time of year, because mental health is so important. And this year really has been hard for a lot of people. So again, we are going to be talking about some triggering topics, and we just want to warn you about that up front. But before we get to those triggering topics, we, of course, have to cover what we're drinking. So, Trish, what are you drinking today? Hopefully it's better than last episode.
Much. Today, I am, and it's funny that you said that because once again, I was teaching today, did not have time to go out and get my wine. My husband comes home with a bottle and was like, babe, the last couple of episodes, your wine choices maybe, or what we've gotten you haven't been so great. And so he bought me something that he was excited about, and so am I. This one is, and I'm sure, Jules, you've had this before, Freak Show, and this is their Cabernet. So very, very delightful. I'm pretty excited about it. I have to tell you what the tasting notes are. Step right up. I love that part. Step right up and experience the strongest man on earth like never before. With amazing brawn and finesse, our 2022 Freak Show Cab, which is the one I'm drinking, by the way, opens with aromas of blueberry, creme brulee, and baked fig. Talk about all my favorites, right?
Yeah.
And then they go on to say, he's larger than life, medium in body, and showcases flavors of fresh cherry pie, blackberry preserves, brown sugar, and clove with a spice-laced finish that will surely have you coming back for the second act. It's just so well written, and it's absolutely delicious. This one, I will warn you, most wines end up being between 9 and 11%. This is a 15%er. So if you are going to enjoy this wine, like I'm going to, please enjoy it responsibly. Just so you know, by the way, this was aged 12 months in a 46% French oak barrel, an 18% American oak, and then 36% a neutral oak. So there is, even though it was aged in those oak barrels, I don't feel like it's very oak forward. For those of you who are not big on oak, I think it just really helps, if I can use the term, meld the other flavors together. It's beautiful. I'm very, very happy tonight. Yay! What about you, Jules?
Well, yours sounds perfect for a cold winter day, which we are both experiencing in our respective places.
Yes.
Also, as you were reading the description, I'm going to drop a little bit of knowledge about Trish and I to our listeners. It reminded
Uh-oh.
me of us smoking clove cigarettes.
Because we weren't real smokers. I
I
mean, I
know.
think
Yes,
that's
yes.
the
Let's put that out there. And it was like once every year in a particular place. So, but it did remind me of that. Like all of a sudden, I got this just like that memory came flooding back. So that was also
hysterical.
nice listening to the description. So I went with another white because I was so intrigued by Lori telling me about that Vino Verde
Yeah.
at Aldi that I still haven't been able to find it at an Aldi, but I found it someplace else. So I grabbed it so I could try it. This one is by Alianca, and it is from, you're going to be excited about this, Trish. It is from Portugal.
Yay!
Yes. And it is spelled Vinho, and then verde,
Oh.
like the French for green. It is it says a blend of the best local white grapes. Crisp and fresh white is light, fruity, and well balanced on its own or with salad, seafood, chicken, and pasta. And it says it has tropical notes, crisp and refreshing. It's got a pretty cool label. Trisha, you would like it. It's got like a little
Ooh, I
tree, kind
do
of
love
artsy.
it.
Yeah, kind
I
of artsy.
do.
So this one definitely you can taste some apple, definitely like green apple in there. It does. It's a little bit effervescent, so it's not a bubbly, but it is effervescent, which is actually pretty cool. It's very refreshing. What
Nice.
else do I taste?
Hey, Jules, while you're figuring out your taste buds, just so you know, in Portuguese, it is also verde.
Oh, okay.
I
Well,
think
there
it's
you go.
pronounced a little bit different, like if you're in Portugal or versus Brazil. I think one's verde, one's verda. But
Oh,
just wanted to drop that little bit of knowledge.
well, look at you. Little mic drop to get us started. Mm. So I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like I can taste a little bit of like freshly mown grass. I get that along with a little bit of citrus, but it's more of like that. You know how when you bite into a crisp Granny Smith apple and
I
there's
knew
sort of
that's where
like
you were
that.
going.
Yep, that's what
Yes.
it tastes like. Yeah, it's very nice. It's
Lovely.
very, very lovely. Yes.
Don't you wish we were on a beach in
I
Portugal
do.
drinking
I
it?
do. I do. And maybe that's why I picked it out today because I'm already over winter.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And it just started. So, oh
We're in the
well.
process of getting at least another 2, maybe 4 inches here.
Well, we
Yay.
got another couple last night and we're supposed to get more tomorrow night. So, yeah. Yay. But while we're still on the topic of beverages, I want to thank everybody who has submitted drink recipes. We're going to try those out on the last episode. So if you're listening to this and you haven't yet, please feel free to put one out there for us. Whoever's recipes we select to get some free Wine with HR merchandise. So send us your favorite recipes.
I don't suppose that I can like pretend to be somebody else and submit so I can get some merch.
No,
Now, darn it.
no.
I love our merch. I was just
I
on the
know.
store again yesterday. I was like, ooh, what am I going to get myself for Christmas?
We've got really cute stuff. Check it out, folks. We'll put the link in the show notes.
All right. Now to the serious stuff.
Yes.
Again, one more time, we're going to share a bunch of stats and a bunch of really, I want to say disturbing, but also important and enlightening information. So if for those of you who are a little more sensitive, if you can bear with us, I beg you to do so because we do offer a lot of good insight. But if you can't and you need any help, or if you have questions and want to reach out to Julie and I, please know that you can always use our Wine with HR email and reach out to us directly, and we'd be happy to have a conversation with you. So, Now, you all know what time it is. It's stat time.
We really need some music to go with this.
I know
Dun, dun,
we
dun,
keep saying that.
dun.
We keep
Stat
saying
time.
that. This is our stat time. We have to have the jazz hands.
Yeah, yes.
All right. So we are going to make that happen for next year. This is
Yes.
we are stalling and our brains are not working with us on our goals. She says, alluding to our upcoming episode, which you all will want to
Yes.
listen to.
Yes. Yes.
Help us reach our goals, brain. All right. So, in all seriousness, let me share these stats with you. The first one I want to share, or the first ones I want to share, come from the National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI. You guys, if you have been with us for the last couple of years, you will recognize that as an organization that we often reference when we are talking about mental health. Interestingly, or most of us would assume that suicide rates go up during the holiday season. But it's actually the opposite. They do tend to be lowest during November and December. Now, please understand that doesn't mean that people aren't suffering from mental illness or stress and anxiety, because we also know that at least 24% of people with a diagnosed mental illness find that the holidays actually make their condition a lot worse. 40% say somewhat worse. Let me give you some more stats so that you can understand exactly what we're talking about. Approximately 755 of overall respondents in this one particular survey reported that holidays contribute to feelings of sadness and dissatisfaction. 68% of those same survey participants felt financially strained. 66% felt loneliness. 63% felt an overwhelming sense of pressure. 55% found themselves remembering happier times in the past, contrasting with their present or current situation, and 50% were unable to be with loved ones. So, those are some pretty interesting stats, I feel. But here is what I really think brings it home. The quote from the NAMI director: what the survey shows is a tremendous need for people to reach out and watch out for each other in keeping with the spirit of the season. This is exactly what Julie and I are always talking to you all about. We're always talking about kindness, being there for someone, being an ear, being a resource. And I think that this goes to show you why now, even more, I mean, we want to do it all year long, but now more than ever, if you haven't started it, it's not too late. And this is the most critical time of the year.
Agreed. And as you said, the big takeaway from all of those statistics is that people do struggle during the holidays. It can show up in a lot of different ways for people, and we just need to keep that in the back of our minds, particularly as HR professionals and as managers, because as we always say, managers, you guys in particular, are the front line of defense. You are the ones most likely to see if somebody is starting to act out of character, or if somebody just it seems like something is going on with them. And we're going to talk more about that a little bit later in the episode. But I wanted to also share some statistics. And again, quick trigger warning because these are about domestic violence. So, as Trisha mentioned, it can be somewhat surprising to people that uh, rates of suicide actually are the lowest during November and December, because I think a lot of us assume that they would be the highest. But domestic violence rates do go up. They increase by about 20% in December alone. And there are a lot of reasons for that. A great resource is the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and we will have a link to their website in the show notes, of course. But they have all sorts of stats, and we didn't want to overburden you all with those because, again, we understand it's a very heavy topic. But I did want to share a couple. So, again, on average, police interventions related to domestic violence rise by 20% in December. An average of 24 people per minute are victims of rape, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner in the US. That is more than 12 million women and men over the course of a single year. That is a huge number. I did not realize it was that high. I mean, I knew the numbers were bad, but I did not realize that it was that high.
Horrible.
Yeah,
Horrible.
yeah. And so, from the Center for Abused Women and Their Children, which again, we will also include a link in the show notes, they said that most of those surges during the holidays are due to a number of factors, including, I don't think any of these will be surprising to people, but financial stress, emotional and psychological factors, increased alcohol consumption, limited access to support services, family dynamics, and having to portray an illusion of togetherness when things are falling apart behind the scenes. I did want to point out that the National Domestic Violence Hotline does have a resource that it includes, it's called Safety Planning for the Holidays. So I think this is a good thing for all HR professionals to have at their disposal. And again, it's not a bad idea for managers to have some of this available, but we understand that you're not always going to be somewhere where you can grab it at your fingertips. So if the HR folks can take care of housing the resources and you know that you can direct someone to them and they can get that information there, that is also a great solution. But for anybody who is listening who may be in a situation where they don't feel safe, this had a lot of really good tips and resources. So, again, we will put a link in the show notes, but you can also find it on the National Domestic Violence Hotline.
Speaking to the managers, Julie mentioned that you all are often the first point of contact. You're the ones who see if someone is late, if something looks off. Please, if you are not comfortable, don't approach. Go to HR. You are doing the right thing going to HR and saying something seems off. If you're comfortable saying, hey, noticed you've been late. Is there something I can do to help? Is there something, would you like me to take you to HR? See if HR can help. There's a lot of different ways that you can approach people and not step over any sort of boundaries because again we want to make sure that we're being considerate of them, we're being considerate of the law.
Mhm.
So your HR department is going to be your partner in that, but you're the one who's going to recognize and perhaps can encourage them. Maybe you just notice something just doesn't seem right. Maybe encourage them. Hey, notice you've been late a couple of times, or I've noticed this is slipping. If you need some resources, HR is a fantastic source. You can direct them without making them feel like you've pointed them out or like you know their secret or whatever it is. Um, why are we even talking about this? How do these these stats relate to the workplace? We want to bring this home to you even more if we haven't already. These are from, again, the National Domestic Violence Hotline. Current or former intimate partners account for nearly 33% of women that are killed in U.S. workplaces. And these numbers came from 2003 to 2008. Those were in the workplace, in case anybody missed that. In 2005, nearly 1 in 4 large private industry establishments reported at least one instance of domestic violence, including threats and assaults. So now you all are starting to see why we said it's that whole thing. If you see something, say something. Get to HR and be a partner with them. 44% of full-time employed adults in the US reported experiencing the effect of domestic violence in their workplace, and 21% are identifying themselves as victims of intimate partner violence. I'm starting to get teary again, Jules.
I know. I know it's hard. It's hard
It's
to
hard.
I mean, I think what people need to realize is that they probably work with somebody who's going through this
Exactly.
because the numbers are so high that you probably work with somebody who is going through this. And so we just really need to be cognizant of how we are treating people.
Yeah. Managers, remember what we always say, which is, oh, and HR, and if you're an employee, remember what Julie and I are always talking about, give kindness. You know, that I always ask people, I say, hey, give grace. I will give you grace, you give me grace. Let's really work on this at being better together. And so think about that the next time someone is unprepared, and they usually are, or something of that nature, because 70% of you out there, you don't have a formal program or policy to address any sort of workplace violence. Hmm. Domestic violence issues, by the way, lead to nearly 8 million lost days of paid work each year, which is the equivalent of 32,000 full-time jobs.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this definitely relates to the workplace, right?
Hmm.
And 96% of those who experience domestic violence that are employed experience problems at work because of the abuse they sustain at home.
Yeah, and that's not surprising because I mean, how could you? How could you not
Right.
have
How could
have
you not?
issues at work if you are dealing with abuse at home? You know.
Right.
So again,
Mm,
we never know what anyone else is going through. And so I think like that is something we have to keep in mind, particularly as we've talked about on other episodes. There does seem to be this phenomena, especially post COVID, where people's frustration threshold is much, much lower than it ever used to be. And people have a tendency to get snappish. It's a little Ally McBeal reference for all of you older folks out there with us in Gen X. Um,
I love
snappish.
Allie.
Yeah. Um, so, people, and especially this time of year, everybody's like rushing around trying to meet year end deadlines and also get all their holiday shopping done. And they might be dealing with family issues. They might be grieving a loss. There could be all sorts of things going on. And we never know what somebody is going through. So, we need to just, if we can, take a pause before we go at someone and
Great.
instead try to go with them, meet them where they're at, and, take a different approach. Yeah, as the old adage says, you get more flies with honey. So, I don't know why you'd want flies, but anyway.
But
So
honey, I understand.
yeah, honey. Yeah, exactly. Yes. So again, we're going to discuss all of this more, but there's a few takeaways from those statistics that Trisha just shared that I think are really important. Number one, companies need to have a plan in place to address workplace violence before it happens. Number two, companies need to train their managers and employees on how to handle workplace violence in the moment. So you have to practice, just like our poor kids have to practice active shooter drills. Companies need to practice what is going to happen and what everybody is supposed to do if a violent interaction should happen. Because unfortunately, in today's world, it's more likely than not, given those statistics we just read off, that you are going to experience a workplace violence incident at some point.
And we're not saying that someone's spouse is going to come in. It may be somebody's spouse, but it could be just two people in your workplace that are,
Mhm.
maybe one person that decides that, they've had enough. and they resort to violence.
Right. Right. So you need to know what to do in the moment. And if you haven't practiced it, that is when people panic. And that doesn't do anybody any good. And then number three, leaders, which includes all of you listeners, our HR professionals, our managers, any employee who wants to, who acts as a leader or wants to be a leader, anybody can be a leader in this situation. But they need to be trained to recognize signs that someone may be suffering from domestic violence, from suicidal thoughts, from any sort of mental condition where they may need additional resources or additional help. And so we're going to discuss all of those in more detail in just a few moments, but we also wanted to share some general stats on how the holidays affect employees who may not be victims of domestic violence or have diagnosed mental conditions, but who are still experiencing stress, anxiety, levels of distress over the holidays. So this is from SHRM. We love SHRM. Again, we'll have the link in the show notes. But added holiday stress comes on top of the high levels of stress and burnout workers are already feeling. So 57% of employees are experiencing at least moderate levels of burnout, and that is before the holiday season started, right? 67% of employers are concerned about employees' depression and anxiety, with 21% citing it as a serious concern. 68% of employers said job related stress is a concern, and 59% cited financial stress as a concern for their employees. ComPsych data showed that employee leaves of absence for mental health issues, including anxiety and depression, are surging up a whopping 300% from 2017 to 2023. So your employees are
Wow.
having a harder time just making it through life. And we need to be able to provide them with the resources that they need to be able to deal with this. Because if we can't, it is going to eventually erupt in the workplace. So now we are going to talk about ways that you can support yourself and your employees. And one of the things that I really want to stress, and I know Trisha is a big proponent of this as well, but first and foremost, you need to take care of yourself because, again, that old saying, if your cup is empty, you've got nothing left to give to anybody else. So you need to make sure that you are taking care of yourself so that you can better help others who need help as well.
I've been jumping to the airplane example recently too, Jules. Like they tell
Mm-hmm.
you put on your mask before you put on someone else's, right? Because
Yep.
you're not going to be any help if you can't breathe. So it kind of goes with that same thing. Um, so we do want to provide you with, again, this comes from an article from Big Health, and it's 10 ways to support employees' mental health during the holidays. As always, of course, we've said it a couple of times already. We will have the link in the show notes. So we just want to share with you some of our favorites. Honestly, you guys know one of Julie and I's favorites, and I have to start with it. Allow for flexible work. I'm gonna go there first, Jules, because you and I both love this one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, adjusted hours, remote work are the examples they give from the article. But let's talk about the things that if you haven't listened to some of our episodes from last year around this time, go back and do so because this is one that Julie and I talked about a lot. Being able to offer your employees a little more flexibility, even if you can't do it the rest of the year, being able to do it during the holidays is exceptional. Not only does it allow people to meet their obligations, but allows them to, honestly, for those who are parents, feel like a good parent. Oh my goodness, I can actually go to my child's holiday bazaar or my child's holiday performance or whatever that looks like. Maybe they have a parent who is trying to get surgeries in before the end of the year because, good Lord, they've already met their deductible and we know how important that is, right? And so we want to get in those last minute surgeries. So to be able to be there and help support their family, whatever that looks like for them. So can they take off an afternoon as long as they make it up in that same week, right? Can you do that? Um, if you really want to get special, hey, guess what? We're going to give you an extra 10 hours just floating to use during the holiday. So it's not even something they have to worry about making up on another night, but we're just going to give it to them for free. Now, people go, oh, let's see, let's try to figure out what that's going to cost the company. But honestly, what you get in return, what you've given your employees is so beyond, I think, many people's I don't want to say beyond people's comprehension, but I think that we don't realize how important that can be as far as a return on investment. This one is huge because your employees are going to feel valued. Oh, hey, it's our words, Jules.
Yeah.
Heard and respected. You just have helped them do something that they didn't think that they would be able to do. You've just helped reduce their stress. You've made them the parent of the year. My mom can never come. My dad never gets to go because he's always working. And now you've given them this ability to do so. They're going to be so happy and they're going to show up to work even more dedicated and ready to work for you because you did something so incredibly amazing for them.
Yeah. You know what else this goes along with, Trish? Our
What's
theme of
that?
this our theme of this whole season, retention. Because if
What?
you treat your employees extra special during the holidays, they're more likely to stick around next year instead of spending
Truth.
December looking for a new job. Now, I do want to say, and I know that Trisha means this as well, so she wasn't trying to exclude anybody, but also for people who aren't parents, like a lot of times we do think about,
Which we are
yeah,
not, so I
I
didn't mean to
know, neither
exclude.
one of us. No, I know you didn't. I know you didn't. But it's actually because I was just reading like a post on social media about, and then it was like this whole big long thread, and it had to do with family dynamics. And, somebody made a unilateral decision in this particular family that only the young kids would get presents, but there were several family members who didn't have kids who weren't getting then not getting anything, and they weren't included in that decision, and they were just
Oh,
talking about how they normally feel left out, and then on top of it, they don't have people to buy presents for them because they don't have kids and they don't have a spouse or they don't have a significant other. And I think we need to remember that too. I think that's one of the things that can lead to loneliness this time of year is
good point.
not everybody has that Hallmark movie family or that, Norman Rockwell picture. And there are a lot of people who do feel that they are shoved aside or forgotten about this time during this time of year. And
Mhm.
so, if we can, again, as a manager or as an HR professional, if you can truly see your employees and not as employees, as humans, as people during this
Yeah.
time of year, I think, obviously we should be doing all of this all year long, but if you can make a special effort to do it now during this time of year, I think that that can really mean a lot to people who often feel overlooked.
I love that. I love that. I know that's why I referenced parents, right? For those
Yeah.
of you who have aging parents, as you've heard Julie and I both
Hmm.
talk about that we both do, that is a huge one for us. And so that is something that also people need to think about. It is not just children, it is also parents, or it is those who do not have maybe either.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's I remember the first Christmas after my and I celebrate Christmas, so that's why I'm talking about Christmas, but I remember the first Christmas after my father passed. It was horrible. I didn't want any part of any of it. I didn't
Yeah.
feel like celebrating, you know. There's too big of a hole in my heart. So, and this past Thanksgiving, my mom was in the hospital and then she's still in a skilled nursing place right now, so things are up in the air there and it just makes it harder. And it so again, you never know what people are going through, so we want to keep that in mind. Um I'm going to get to another couple suggestions here, but one other thing I wanted to say is even if you're a lot of the suggestions we're going to have could be implemented on a company wide basis, but your company might not be ready to do it. And you don't have any control over that. But to the extent that you could implement some of these on your own teams, I would encourage you to do so because a lot of times you do have that leeway. Not always, but sometimes you do. And if you don't, we're still going to share some things that you can do no matter whether you have authority to give people flexible work schedules or extra days off or things like that. If you don't have that kind of authority or flexibility, we've got some other things that you could do as well. So I think the one that I am going to talk about next is encouraging time away. This is the most important part, without guilt.
Ooh, what? Without guilt. Come
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah. Now, obviously, you cannot control how people feel, and there are those of us who, may have been brought up. I always say that the best emotion that Catholics, the emotion Catholics are best at is guilt. So some of you may feel the same. But you want to encourage people to take time off if they have it available and if schedules allow, and to truly, truly unplug and get away. And the best way to do that is for you to do it yourself. So, going back to what we were talking about a minute ago, you need to take care of yourself first. You also, as a manager or a leader in the company, need to lead by example. And so if you step away, even if it's for half a day or a full day, it doesn't have to be an entire week if things are nuts. But if you give yourself at least half a day or a full day where you say, I am not going to be responding to emails, two very important things happen. One, you may realize that the world doesn't actually fall apart without you, which can be a little bit humbling, but is also very important to realize because it is liberating from a mental health perspective to realize that you
Mhm.
can actually step away and things will not fall apart, or at least not in a way that they can't be fixed when you get back. Number two, your employees will see you do it, and then they will know that they truly do have permission to step away and to not look at their emails, not check in, not stress. They can actually just go and enjoy their time off. So I think that that is really, really important. Easier said than done, I know, but you can do it. I have actually gotten there. And it is very, very refreshing to be able to be present in whatever, for whatever reason you took the day off. It's very refreshing to be present for that moment and to actually enjoy your time with loved ones. So,
And anyone who knows Julie
yeah.
knows that that is a major, major achievement.
Yes. All right, Trish, what's your next one?
Um, Set realistic expectations. I really love this one because as we're talking about taking some time off and we're talking about having people not answer emails, that doesn't mean that we cannot pile the work on others. We still have to, we need to be prepared for this. We need to come up with work charts. We need to say, okay, can you cover for this and then I'll cover for you, so that like one person, especially if that particular person doesn't celebrate, let's say Julie mentioned Christmas, so let's go with Christmas. If I don't celebrate Christmas and I'm not taking certain time off, then oh well, then well, Trisha's going to be there, just have her do it. Trisha's going to be there, have her do this. And so we really really want to avoid that. um think about your projects, think about the deadlines that you have. You have an option to create projects deadlines or timelines. Let me try to say that real fast again. Lord have mercy. Um, and so I realize that there are certain client expectations. You may not always get to control that, but think about, okay, can we move things around a little bit? Can we maybe give ourselves a little padding, just so that you are not penalizing those who either choose not to take the time. Maybe they do celebrate the same holiday that you do, but maybe for some reason they are choosing not to step away. And that is equally important to recognize. For some people, putting themselves into work is the way they deal with it. It is the way they feel stronger, better, don't whatever the issue is. We're not going to judge. We're not going to say take time if they don't want to. We're just going to say, you know what? We recognize you for what you would like to do, and we're not going to now cover you in tons and tons and tons of work. So I think that would be one of my biggest for the next.
Well, and I think on that note, it's also important to set realistic expectations with clients and customers
Ooh, excellent
because,
point.
well, yeah, because you always get, I know this from my years in a law firm, you always get those people who are like, oh, crap, we need this done by year end. Do they really? You know, most of the time, the answer is no. Now, there are definitely some emergencies where things need to be taken care of, but most of the time, it can wait. It's just somebody was like, it'd be great if we could get this done by year end. If you have the power to do so and say, you know what, our calendar is full for the rest of the year, but we can start working on this the second week of January, or January 1st if you have to, or January 2nd, whatever. But if you can help set expectations with your clients, then you're going to be able to control some of that workload that we're talking about. And honestly, to Trisha's point about mapping it out, you should be, and I know we're already at December 3rd, but you should be, so for 2026, maybe at the beginning of November, start looking at people's time off schedules, planning for the workload in December when we tend to be shorter staffed, where people are a little bit checked out, where we're just not as productive, and yet a lot of times we try to pack in twice as much when there's only really half the month, two-thirds of the month, available
Right.
to us. And we need to stop doing that. So I agree, setting realistic expectations with employees, with your teams, but also with your customers and your clients is going to be very helpful.
I love that extension to customers and clients, letting them know how important your teams are to you, how important your employees are. I think if you present it to them like that, how is anyone going to fault you for that? Unless there may be someone you don't want to continue to work with. So just something to think about. If they don't
Yep.
value their employees, maybe it's not such a bad thing to lose them, she
Yeah.
says, as someone who doesn't have, a multi-billion dollar whatever. But I think that, and maybe I'm a little, Hallmark movied out at this point, but I really do feel like most people are going to see the value in that. I think most people are going, or most companies are going to say, wow, that's really impressive. I love the fact that they're doing that. We respect that, and they maybe will even respect you more, and they'll become a customer of yours for life.
Agreed. Agreed. My next suggestion, and again, these all come from big health, but a lot of them are very common sense. Promote stress reduction at work. So there's a variety of ways that you could do this. So some of the tips from the article include organizing stress reducing activities in the workplace, such as yoga sessions, mindfulness workshops, or other wellness programs. Some ideas that I had are you could provide a quiet room where people can just go if they need 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever the case may be, but they just need a quiet place to get away from whatever is going on. Have a sign that people can use when they need some quiet time or they want to work without interruption. That's a thing you could do all year round. But maybe it's like a green card or a red card, or, maybe it's a funny sign, whatever. You guys can figure out what that might be. But just something where people can signal without having to do a lot of explaining, but where they can easily tell people non-verbally, you know what, today I need to be left alone unless it's an emergency because maybe I'm just not there today. Maybe I just can't.
Mhm.
Some days you just wake up and you're like, I can't life today.
I can't people
like,
today.
yeah, I can't
I bought
people,
Will a
I can't
shirt that
life,
says
I
that.
can't, yep, yep. So, so that's what we want you all to be, our emotional support humans. So, but anyway, some other things you might be able to do, find ways to laugh and have fun. Obviously, you want to keep it lighthearted and PC and not delving into any of the like offensive things that could get anybody in trouble, but just find ways to laugh and have fun. Maybe have the Christmas story running in the background. Maybe have a dress up day where people come dressed up like their favorite Christmas movie character, or again, being inclusive, their favorite holiday character or holiday theme, or whatever, so that you could be inclusive of all the holidays. You could have rotating traditions with all of the holidays. I'm getting into one other one, which is promote a positive and inclusive workplace. But find ways to laugh and have fun. And a lot of times that does involve food. So you could, have some inclusive days where people bring a dish from their own holiday traditions, whatever those may be.
Ooh, sign me up
And
for that.
right,
Invite me.
right. Yeah. And then another one is as a manager or anybody who has a team, take your employees for coffee. Take them one on one. Just, or if they don't like coffee, find out what they like. Take them for tea, take them for coffee, take them for a walk, take them whatever they might like to do. But have some one on one time with your employees where you can just do a check in. You don't have to get into anything deep, as Trisha said, if you're not comfortable with that. But if you just have some one on one time where you say, how are you doing? What's going on for you during the holidays? Is there anything you want me to be aware of? Are there any ways in which I can better support you during this time? Just questions like that show you care. And that will go, I think, a really long way to making your employees feel that they can come to you if something were to come up.
And not just at the holidays, but all year round, right? You start
Mm-hmm.
talking like that, your employees are going to come to you. And I love that. The how can I best support you? You know that one of my favorite things is just how can I help? And
Mm-hmm.
and that is just a whole nother version. We talk about how can I help all year round, but how can I support you at this time of year? What can I do best for you at this time of year? I'm obsessed with that, and I'm going to share that with my classes.
Yeah. Well, and on that note, again, extending it and leading by example, if you can also, as a manager or the HR person, if you can say to people, you know what, here is how you can best support me during this holiday season. Again,
Aha.
you're not only leading by example, but you're giving them permission to then say the same thing to you. And they might be more comfortable doing so if you've already shown the vulnerability to do it yourself.
I love that. I love that. One of the things I want to point out to everybody, Jules, is something that you said. So she was talking about promoting stress reduction, and then she said, here are some ideas that I have. And it kind of made me go instantly to seek and be open to feedback because it's not just about what we think, it's about
Mhm.
what others think as well. And so, really and truly, talk to your employees again. Oh, communication, the thing we're always talking about. Um, Ask them what they would like. Ask them what would help them de-stress. I think that really looking to our employees to see what suggestions that they have or what they would appreciate is a wonderful way of, again, making them feel heard and valued. Because we all grew up differently, we all have different stresses in our life. And I think that if we say to someone, this is what I would want, but that doesn't mean it's what you would want. So, hey, what is it that you would like? What would help you at this time? Um, it may not be that you can do it, and I think that that is a fair thing to say to them. I may not be able to do what you ask, but talk to me and let me see if we can come up with something to help you. I loved that one. So kind of taking what they said in the article and then just adding to it. And then, of course,
Yeah,
adding on to what you said.
yeah. This is how that works. That is how this works. That's what I was trying
Yes.
to say. I'm tripping over my words. But that brings me to fostering open communication, which is what all of this is about. It always comes back to communication. But specifically in the article, they talk about encouraging open conversations about mental health. And some suggestions are hosting workshops or webinars on mental health awareness, providing resources, and reinforcing the message that seeking help is a sign of strength. And I think that that is really important. But as we were just talking, I also had an idea pop into my head where maybe something you could do during the holidays is the holiday season is maybe at the beginning of the week, end of the week, middle of the week, whatever works for you. You have a meeting with your team and you say, okay, we're going to do a round robin. Everybody say what is stressing them out the most this week and then have the team brainstorm ways they can help each other. And it doesn't have to be work related, it could be outside of work. So,
Ooh.
but the solutions could be related to relieving some of the burden at work, perhaps, or, you know, hooking them up with some sort of resource or some sort of idea. So that if somebody says, what is stressing me out the most this week is that I have to get to the post office and mail all of the gifts because all of my family is out of state. And I have to mail all of the gifts so that they get there in time for Christmas. And I haven't had time to put them in a box and wrap them and figure out what the postage is and get to the post office. Then, okay, how can we support Julie in that? The team might say, we're going to let Julie leave early so she can get to the post office on this day. And then, I might say, oh my God, that's wonderful. I will come in an hour early the next day. Or I'll cover a time for one of you when you need to do something, but you can make it a group effort because that's what it should be anyway, because we're all looking out for each other and we're all supposed to be a team. But that was just something that popped into my head. So again, that's fostering open communication, but it's making it a group problem solving that will also probably increase cohesion, respect, inclusiveness, belonging, all of the things we talk about all the time.
My heart is exploding. I mean, that one was awesome. That was pretty fantastic. All right. I'm going to tie us into our last episode a little bit and talk about recognition and appreciation. Last episode, by the way, episode 16. Um, don't forget that we always want to recognize our employees for the efforts that they make, for the achievements, whether they're short-term goals or long-term goals. We always want to recognize them for that. But I think especially at the holiday season, when people are going above and beyond, this becomes exceptionally important, especially if someone has stayed late and it did create some sort of an issue for them in their personal life. You hear these things and you go, well, you had to get it done. No, they chose to do that. And I think it's incredibly important to go up to someone and just, even if it's just, hey, I know that that really was difficult for you. That was a difficult decision to stay, or that put you behind in what you had to do, whatever the personal life situation is. And I just want you to know how much we appreciated that. Y'all, a thank you like that can go so far. Whereas if you just say it as, well, that's your job, or you should do that, or whatever. No, no, actually, I mean, maybe they need to get the job done, but that doesn't mean that it has to be at the peril of their personal life. This is a stressful enough time of year, and so to create additional stress like that, and when someone steps up and takes one for the team, as they say, I think that they should be called out in a positive way and really recognized for that. Um, in general, of course, if you have people that have met their long-term goals, if they've met short-term goals, if they have improved their performance significantly, you could even create little things like, okay, I'm going to give you the award for the most improved. I'm going to give you an award for the best attitude. Silly little things. Like, I know this sounds ridiculous, but you could even make awards yourself. And like, the cheesier, the better. Like, you get the orange peel award and, like an orange. And that is because you have shed the skin that you were in at the beginning of the year, and you have grown into this amazing employee with all of these new skills. I don't know. I'm just pulling things off the top of my head. But you can do stuff like that that is ridiculous and fun, getting people to laugh, but also, oh, recognizing them for their accomplishments.
Right. Because that goes back to people want to be seen
They
and
right.
valued and appreciated. So
Yeah,
I love it. I love that. I love that. I'm going to uh, combine the last two for from the Big Health article, and then Trisha and I have some of our own suggestions. But managers and HR professionals, if your company does not offer training on recognizing signs of mental health struggles amongst your employees, find it yourself and share it with everybody else. There are a ton of resources out there. Again, we'll put links to the ones that we have in the show notes, but NAMI, which we've talked about, the National Alliance on Mental um, oh my God, what's the I stand for? Mental illness. My goodness. Oh, sorry, brain fart there. But that they have tons and tons and tons of resources. So that's always a good place to start. And I believe it is nami.org. But again, we'll have it in the show notes for you. But try to find those resources and educate yourself if your company's not doing it for you, so that you can recognize signs. And then also have HR is the best place to have this, but HR, if you can compile a list of local resources for people. So, I mean, having the national, like the suicide hotline, the national domestic violence hotline, having those national resources is great, but having local resources is great as well. And think about resources for people who are having financial difficulty, because, again, you're not always going to know that, but that can really take a toll on somebody's mental health if they are finding themselves in a situation where their money is not going far enough, and perhaps they don't have enough to eat, or they don't have a place to sleep, or whatever the situation may be. So if you can have resources to local food banks, local domestic violence shelters, local um, thrift shops, any of that kind of stuff. Any charitable locations where they might be able to get some supplies and things for free. Uh, those are always great. And then also having a way for employees to know that they can come to HR on a confidential, private basis to say, I'm struggling with X. I don't have a place to stay right now, so I'm having trouble showering, or I'm having trouble with just I don't have the necessities like deodorant and shampoo and soap and things like that, where they know that HR is a safe place to come to talk about those things. And again, we're not saying you in HR have to solve the problem, but if you can at least have resources to direct the employee to, and you can offer some sort of help in that respect, that can be a lifesaver in those situations, because at least they now have steps they can take, and they also know that they have somebody they can come back to, and that they can confide in as they are getting back on their feet. So we want to make sure that we have resources available, ones that the company provides, but also local resources and also those national resources. But I think the local ones are even more important if you can just kind of have a running list of those that you could give to people when they come to you.
Well, and I think, Jules, the other thing that people need to understand is sometimes your employees may want those resources, but not even for themselves, but to help share those with others. And
Hmm.
so we always talk about, we are human resources. So even if the company can't provide things, for us to be a resource, to be able to compile all of this information and then be able to share it with our employees so that they can use it, that would be amazing because they may not know where to go to get stuff, but we maybe through our training or through just people we've talked to, through listening to this
Hmm.
podcast, we have information that they don't. And so to be able to, even for those who maybe don't come to you and seek that information, but just say, hey, everyone, we're throwing this out there because we want to help everyone during the holiday season. Here are some resources. So if you know someone who's in trouble, if you know someone who is a part of your, maybe they're part of a theater group or a part of a church or a part of a book club or something like that, then you can just say, share these resources. And what an amazing result that would be if we're all trying to share and help people. You could end up helping people that you're not directly touching, but because you've done the legwork or pulled together that information, you could be helping someone out. You could even be saving their life.
That is such an important point. And you also made me think about, be careful about, like, it's always great when companies sponsor a family or somebody else in need, but be careful about pressuring employees to donate, because you don't know what their financial situation is, and they may not have the extra funds to do so. They could be one of those families who really need the help. So just be careful about that. I think we have a tendency, I have worked at places where somebody has walked around with, a list of who has given and who hasn't, and is sort of like badgered people. And I think we need to be really sensitive about that, because we, again, never know what somebody else's situation is. So proceed carefully. And again, if you can have those resources available, like Trisha said, you may touch a life without ever knowing it, but it has a ripple effect. And that
Yep.
is just a good thing to be putting into the universe right now, in a
Absolutely.
time when there's a lot of negativity that's being put out there as well.
Well, and I think that goes to the first one of the other ideas that Julie and I wanted to share with you, which is something that you have heard us say again and again and again, but it does bear repeating because it is so incredibly important, which is lead with kindness. If you are leading with kindness, you don't know the kind of impact that you are going to have. Um, it's contagious, just like negativity is, right? We all know negativity is very contagious. When you're around someone that's negative, you start becoming more negative. You start repeating the negativity. But when you are around someone who is focusing on the positive, leading with kindness, you want to do the same. And I always share with my classes, you can spread the news in two different ways. You can vomit, if you'll again allow me to use a nasty word, vomit negativity all over them and like, oh, the C-suite wants us to do this. And can you believe it? This is so stupid. Or you can flip it around and be like, I'm super excited. We said we wanted a change. The C-suite has listened. Here's what they've come up with. Hey, I don't know if it's going to work, but what I want from you, team, again, team, is to tell me what's working and not what isn't working, but how we could still improve. And then you guys know how Julie and I love the feed forward method. Then you can use that same method here and say, oh, that's a great idea. I agree. We could improve that. How would you recommend that we do that? So it's that whole idea of, again, leading with kindness, always trying to encourage people. This one that I'm sharing goes beyond just now. Obviously, everything we're talking about goes just beyond this season. But I think with that one, if we're always focusing on kindness and positivity, we can create that atmosphere that we want to work in. You can hire for that environment as well. I always tease my classes and say, it's like marrying someone and thinking you're going to change them. It ain't gonna happen, kids. So hire for that kind of the environment that you want.
Yes. Yes. That's your mic drop moment.
Uh,
Um, yeah. Okay. So I'm going to wrap up ours with something, and Trisha, you may have some thoughts on this after. I'm going to give people another trigger warning because I'm going to talk about a personal experience that I have had. But this one again sounds very simple. And if you're leading with kindness, just ask people how they're doing. Show interest in their lives. As Trisha said before, if you see something, say something. So if you see someone who doesn't seem like themselves, ask them if they're okay and really listen. Take them for coffee or meet up after work or, you know, take the time to just make sure they're okay. We are taught not to pry into people's lives, but sometimes showing that you care can make a critical difference. So here's again trigger warning. I'm going to talk about suicide, but I had an experience when I was 18 where I was the very last person that someone spoke to before they took their own life. And looking back now, I can see the signs, but this wasn't somebody that I was super close with. But it's somebody that I knew and I went to high school with, and we were friends. Um, we worked together for a period of time. I was home on Christmas vacation from college, and I went back to where I was working, and we worked together, and we talked all night. And I actually thought that she seemed happier than she had ever seemed, and I was really excited to see that because I hadn't seen that. And again, I was 18. I didn't know anything. I certainly don't know as much as I know now. And I think now maybe I would have recognized that as some of the signs. Not that I could have changed anything, but um, I was the last person she talked to. And then the next morning I found out that she was gone. And it's difficult in those situations not to plague yourself with, what if I had said this? I remember she was asking me a lot of questions about my family, and I was talking about how great my family was, which sounds so callous. But again, I was 18. I didn't know. At that point, I didn't understand that people didn't have families like I had. And we were sharing a lot of experiences, and she seemed so interested and, like I said, happier. And now I can recognize that that was a sign that I just didn't recognize. But to then wake up the next morning and sorry, get that phone call that she was gone. um it is, it's really difficult not to blame yourself in some fashion. And as a 51-year-old, I can look back on that and say, as an 18-year-old, there's absolutely nothing I could have done. And I wasn't at a place where I could have recognized any of those signs. But if you now, I know that I would rather suffer the discomfort of prying and asking somebody if they are okay than get a phone call like that.
I'm going to take over for just a moment for Julie because I think it's important for everyone out there who's experienced this and is probably crying like the two of us are, um, to understand that we're not always able to recognize the signs. It doesn't matter if you're 18, if you're 30, if you're 40, if you're 50. But what you can do is take any experience that you've had and know that you can change someone's life by, just like Julie said earlier, asking, how are you? Are you okay? Is there something I can do? Right? Just by talking to them, look, it's never your fault. What someone else does is obviously not your fault. It is their decision. You cannot control someone else's actions. But what you can do is look towards the future and what you might be able to do or to say to someone else. This is why Julie and I are constantly talking to you guys about kindness, about giving grace, is because you really don't know what that trigger is. And you don't know if, you know what, the words that you say are going to be the difference, because you smiled at someone. If you guys have ever, and maybe you have or haven't had this experience, but I have had someone say to me, your smile made all the difference. You were so kind to me at a time when everybody else was so mean, and you didn't even realize what you were doing, but it made the world of difference to me. And I know Julie has experienced that side of things as well. So as you can tell, we're both very emotional about this topic. So I want you to have the conversations if you're comfortable. If you're not comfortable, get to someone else who could be comfortable. Slip them the phone number. Do whatever it is you can. Now, I know that people are going, oh, but we have to be concerned about the law. And I get that. We can't ask them certain things, but that doesn't mean you can't be human.
Right. Right. And the question again, how are you? Are you okay? How can I help? Those are all
Boom.
fine questions. You don't need any questions other than those three.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's all you need. And everything Trisha said, I echo, because I think it is so, especially in today's world, it is very important to be kind to each other. I've shared recently on my Jewels of Wisdom about, like, people in workers in stores saying to me, like, oh, it's great to know there are still kind people out there. And I'm thinking, who is abusing the poor person stocking the shelves in the CVS? Like, what is going on?
Oh, yeah.
And you don't there's no reason to be that person. You could be the person who makes their day instead of breaking their day. So, you know all of this comes around to there are people out there dealing with really awful things. And we can't start comparing people's troubles to one another because everybody's troubles are their own and they impact them in the way that they impact them. And that is their experience, and it is real and it is valid. And we need to value that. We need to value that and validate that. And so be the light. Be the light
Yeah.
instead of the darkness right now. We could all use a little bit more of it. So my final thoughts, because I could talk about this forever, but my final thoughts are just to be kind and don't be afraid to ask. And if you are afraid to ask, as Trisha said, then say something to somebody else. Just tell HR, you know what? I don't know if there's anything to this or not, but I got a weird feeling that so and so is struggling. Can
I
you
love it.
please just check in with them? If I got that as an HR person, I would be profoundly grateful that you took the time to tell me, and I would reach out to that person immediately. So, if you don't feel comfortable doing it, please tell HR or tell somebody else who is more comfortable doing so, because we don't want to leave anybody behind this season.
I love that so much. So I think my final thought that I would want to share with everyone is the same theme that's been rolling throughout this entire episode, which is you don't know what kindness could mean to someone else. So if you tend to maybe get a little excited when someone says something, or if you say, oh, that person always is talking like that, and so you assume that they mean something negative, stop and pause. Take yourself down a little bit and think. And this is something I use in my internal investigations classes all the time. I say, if someone's trying to intimidate you, try to figure out why. Most of the time, that intimidation, those negative emotions, when someone's mean, when they're being rude, all of that is based in some sort of fear. So maybe that person has some sort of a fear, and maybe it's fear related to the holiday season. Maybe it's fear about their job. Maybe it's fear that they're not performing. And so really look at that and use that as a moment to go, oh, oh my goodness, why are you so scared? And when you start looking at someone from that kind of a standpoint, it takes away some of that anger. It allows you to have a little more empathy for a person. And so I guess that's actually the point is I would ask everyone to have a little more empathy for someone, even if it's the mean bully. That mean bully, there's a reason that they are like that. There's a reason they're using that tone, using those words. And so try to have a little empathy and try to figure out like maybe the why behind that, and then use that to give a little grace. We can always use a little bit of grace, but I think especially at the holiday season.
I like it. I think that is a good philosophy. I think grace is good. And what do you have to lose? So you were nice to somebody who wasn't nice back.
Ooh, big deal, right?
Yeah, right. That's more a reflection on them than it is on you. So,
Bingo.
yep. Decide who you want to be this holiday season. And we know if you listen to us all the time that you are going to be the kind human who looks out for others. So. Okay, so we're going to lighten it up a little bit by getting back to the WINE, so that we, don't leave you in a pit of despair. But we do appreciate you hanging in there with us throughout this episode. As you can see, it's a topic near and dear to our hearts. And we both got pretty emotional. So again, thanks for making it through that with us. So Trisha, how is your wine treating you?
Exceptionally well. Thank you very much for asking.
Or did you mean
I
freakishly well?
definitely meant freakishly well. If our listeners could see me right now, I even have a little flush red in my cheeks. There is definitely something in this that it's warming. It warms the cockles of my heart. So yeah, this one I'm very, very much enjoying, and so thankful to Will for picking it out for me. What about you, Jules? Still
I
wanting to be in
have
a Portugal beach?
Yes, yes. This is lovely. I'm going to send you the picture of the label, Trish, because I think you would
Yes.
really like it. And also, I forgot to mention it was $7.99 a
Holy
bottle.
buckets!
So,
See?
yeah. So it was a pretty good bargain. It's a pretty good bottle of wine for that amount of money. So and we are compiling a list of all of the wines that we have tasted and tried over the course of the season that we will post on our website or Facebook or LinkedIn pages. We've got them all now, so please follow us on all of them. We'll have all the links in the show notes. So, again, thank you very, very much for joining us for this very important episode and for sticking with us. Even when the going got a little rough for the two of us. We appreciate it. We wish you all the best holiday season, whatever holidays you celebrate. Or if you don't celebrate any holidays at all, we still wish
That's
you
cool
a
too.
peaceful and joyful December and January. And we will see you. Well, we have one more episode left, and then we're going to take a little break, and we'll be back probably at the beginning of February, if not sooner, but likely the beginning of February. But we love y'all. We wish you the best over the next couple of months, and cheers.
Cheers!